From the studio that brought us the masterful Dishonored series and the excellent Prey comes a brand new IP, Deathloop. Just from the reveal, I was sold, personally. The premise was simple but so cool. Dishonored gameplay, but with guns. And while they brought back the iconic Blink, they also made brand new powers, with the main objective of killing 8 targets within a day. If you die, you loop back to the beginning. I don't want to waste time. Let's talk about it. I'll keep this short, but I think it's necessary to get this done first because first thing I do every time when I boot up a game for the first is look at the settings. Deathloop has everything you need and it runs pretty well. I play on like medium high settings and average like 60 to 80 FPS depending on what's going on in the world. And I will mention, I heard through the grapevine that on launch there was stuttering and crashing and all that, but I can confirm as of November 9th when I'm writing this that those problems do not exist. No stuttering issues from me. I did crash once, but only once. And I have a pretty modern build, 2060, 16 gigs of RAM, blah, blah, blah. The premise of the story is that you are Colt Vaughn. You were the head of security of the loop on the island of Black Reef until you decided that you wanted to break the loop. Your main adversary is Juliana, the new head of security, whose job, was yours to protect the loop. Also, you have amnesia. In the loop, there are 7 visionaries who are more or less great minds in one way or another. They range from super wealthy to super smart to super creative, which is why they were chosen to come to the loop. In order to break the loop, all visionaries must die in the day. And the upper hand that Colt has is while no one else remembers past the loop, you as Colt do remember, but so does Juliana. And this actually does become a gameplay mechanic where, at least in the beginning, you cannot save equipment, but you save all information. So with no spoilers, I will say frankly that there is little to no actual story in this game. Just by the nature of the game, I guess it would have been tricky to do anyways, but that's the reality. Since the same day is being looped and only Colt and Juliana remember what happens, none of the visionaries get proper character development, like only small things. Really, the story of Deathloop is just breaking the loop, and the relationship between Colt and Juliana and how that plays out. However, Deathloop has a lot of really cool lore. The background of the visionaries, the island of Black Reef, the loop itself, there's really cool stuff in the background, but the forefront, fairly bare bones. It is what it is. So yeah, it's literally Dishonored 2 with guns, and it's pretty fun. If you are familiar with Dishonored, then you already know what I'm about to say, but if you aren't familiar with Dishonored, I'll break it down. I'll break down the gameplay formula. At the root is player choice. Every level has multiple paths to accomplish your goal. You can go high ground, underground, straight through, stealth, super loud, somewhere in the middle. It's very open-ended, and Deathloop is no different for the majority of the game. In fact, in the opening level, Up Dom, you can choose left or right. If you go to the left, you can go on the street. You can go under the street. You can go above the street. If you go to the right, you're by a cliffside, where then you can go over the street and hug the cliffside more. And that philosophy carries throughout all of the areas. So this game really has the Dishonored touch in terms of exploration. Albeit, not that it's bad, but I will say, just as a small bit of criticism, it's not as in-depth as Dishonored. It's Dishonored-like, in a sense. Now, the gunplay feels pretty good, the weapons are varied enough, and the new powers are very cool. That's not all. There are also weapons and character trinkets, which are various buffs to your guns and character, as well as multiple power upgrades per power. They truly did not skimp on the character specking, because you can get some really creative builds going on. I'll give 2 examples of what builds can look like in this game. First, I have my standard build that I ran for the majority of the game, an emphasis on stealth, movement, and kill efficiency, with a little backup plan. This second build that I just made up is more so high chaos, if this was Dishonored terms. It's super loud, causing mayhem. It's pure arcade chaos. And besides these, there are more ways to build your characters. But do you like these guns? Well, I want to dive into the content of the game now. What is there to do? Well, the main drive of the game is going to be these leads, basically quests. Following the leads will show you how to efficiently break the loop by revealing character secrets and how to get them into the right situations. There are also weapon leads, which result in the unique weapons of the game, like these. Same goes for powers, although honestly, I got the powers and upgrades by just killing Visionaries and Juliana. I never focused on power leads. Before you get the optimal path, you will kill Visionaries several times, but you won't break the loop until you get to that point, which is honestly a big criticism I have of the game. The game seemed to imply that there would be different ways to break the loop, but there isn't. There's just one set path to breaking the loop. Now, there are definitely different ways to kill Visionaries, and you can choose which leads to focus on to achieve the optimal path. But once you get to the optimal path, that's it. There's no other way to break the loop. I wish there was at least 3 or 4 ways to break the loop so there's more variety and replay value. And truthfully, that's what my criticism of this game amounts to. I wish there was more. This is a small game. I beat it in 14 hours. And the replay value is basically just beating the loop with different builds and doing invasions, which I'll have a segment for invasions later. I wish there was more powers, more paths, more guns, just more. The biggest disappointment of this game is how small it is. And also, I have to mention how they completely gutted melee from Dishonored. Dishonored had parry, riposte, sliding takedowns, and strong attacks. But for some reason, they removed this in Deathloop in favor of just spamming the left click. And let me explain what I mean by removed. Obviously, this isn't Dishonored, this is Deathloop, but it's based off the framework and skeleton of Dishonored 2. Here's my proof. Same animation, same model skeleton, same graphics. It just feels like Dishonored. But I don't think that's a bad thing. Actually, I think it's good, smart, clever, however you want to call it. And even FromSoft is doing this with Dark Souls 3 to Elden Ring. But with all this in mind, why did they gut melee? Since they took so much from Dishonored, why remove the excellent melee? And it's not like you couldn't use it either. It's not like there wouldn't be an opportunity. There's plenty of enemies that use melee. And with the power and trinkets, it could have been cool to do a melee-only run. In my mind, this is a no-brainer. Should have been one of the first things added. And the game is not better off with it being missing. And while I'm here giving my criticism, I need to also criticize the leads system. Because while it's a good driving force, I think it's a little too handholdy, if you will. Like, it's teetering on handholdy because basically all of the mystery of figuring out how to break the loop is erased because the leads just, they literally tell you where to go, what time of day to be, to a T. You know, they're telling you everything. So there's less of a mystery in trying to break this. There's less experimentation being like, oh, do I need to be at this time of day? And this place? Like, you're not really figuring stuff out. The game's just kind of leading you along, like this single player experience, which in my mind is a shame because this could have been, you know, like a discovery aspect, like a mystery. Like, you have amnesia, you're on this loop, you're trying to break it, but you have no idea where. That could have you just going down this rabbit hole, but it didn't play out that way. And frankly, I want to say the first like 4 hours of the game I think was the most intriguing. I'm not going to say most fun, but most intriguing because I didn't realize that leads worked like that. And once I realized the leads work like that, the intrigue and mystery disappeared. In fact, there are several areas that I just never went to again because I realized that this is how leads work, so I just never returned, which is a shame. You know, it's a real shame, and it goes back to my point where there should be multiple ways to break the loop, or there should have been multiple ways to break the loop because there's a lot of areas in this game that once you find that optimal path, you're never touching those spots again. Missed opportunity. If you ever played Dark Souls, this is the exact same idea, but with one main difference being that Colt ultimately has a big advantage because Colt has 3 lives and Juliana has 1. If you haven't played Dark Souls, I'll explain the gameplay system. If you choose to play with online enabled, then while playing, there is a chance that you will have your world invaded by another player, with their objective being to kill you. So, when you are being invaded, you must stand your ground. In Deathloop specifically, when you get invaded, your access to the escape tunnels is blocked until you hack the satellite. So you don't really need to kill Juliana to escape. But Juliana is alerted when you're actively hacking, so the pressure is on the whole time. Now, for invading as Juliana, the game changes a little bit. You start off with a very bare bones loadout, and you get more items as you rank up. The way you rank up is via merits, and these merits may vary from killing Colt, how you kill him, to just surviving for X amount of minutes. So, if you really wanted to, you can grind out this entire thing, even if you can't fully kill Colt, which I haven't personally anyways. Not yet anyways. Now, there is an incentive to invade if you prefer PvE, that being skins for Colt, because invading is the only way to obtain these skins. And that's it for invasion. I I'm not, I mean, I'll give my opinion really quick. I'm not a huge fan of this. I mean, I was never a fan of it in Dark Souls, and I'm not a fan of it now. My first time getting invaded, my boy was camping in a corner the whole time. I ended up killing him because he lost patience, but he was camping in a corner. And I will mention that just like in Dark Souls, this PvP is a little laggy. Like, check, like this clip right here. He ends up assassinating me through lag. Okay, this animation is for if he was behind me, but he was right in front of me. Okay, to be fair, I don't know if that animation is for behind, but the fact that he insta-killed me, it's not fun to me. If you really love invading, then this should be par for the course for you, but personally, I don't want to deal with that. Wow, see, that's why, this is a big reason why the melee combat sucks. He just hit me twice and that was it, I was dead. Damn, I was murking him. Deathloop is Dishonored with guns. The gameplay feels great, and the world itself is colorful and full of personality and a funky-ass soundtrack. But the game content itself is so small, I truly wish there was more to it, because everything here is so good, and more or less what I expected of the game. Frankly, I have to give two separate scores. For $60, I have to give this a 7. Because while the game content is good, there's just not enough of it, and not enough replay value, as Invasion will only have you coming back if you enjoy that gameplay loop. Now, for $40 or $30, I would call this an 8.5. It would easily be a 9 if there was more story content, but for what is here, I think, you know, $30 to $40 range is totally reasonable, and in fact, I bought the game at $40, which is why I feel this way and is why I'm reviewing it so quickly. Because, you know me, I review games like months or even years after they're done. That's just my style. Deathloop should not have been a $60 game. There's simply not enough here to justify it. Now, in my opinion, Deathloop can easily segue into a new Dishonored style game. The lore of the world is pretty interesting, and also based off of the ending, it's open-ended enough to actually support this. Just, they can't call it Deathloop. Call it something else, but use the world and characters of Deathloop. Make it a 30-hour campaign, and yeah, I would definitely play that. I think that would be good. So, that's it. If you made it to the end, I thank you very much for watching the whole thing. All I hope for is that you feel accurately informed about the game.